my dad was always good at emphasizing that it's not always about scoring. Like that's not always the most important thing. And I think people tend to think that way growing up. Like, oh, how many points did you score? That doesn't always translate to being affecting winning the most.
You got to stay in the Midwest for Chicago during the NBA Draft Combine. Obviously, that's a great breeding ground to really introduce yourself to so many new faces and so many executives and so many front offices. What was the main thing you really wanted them to come away thinking about when they thought about Kon Knueppel after your trip to Chicago?
The main thing I think is just a guy who really loves basketball. At the end of the day, you're gonna have that's your profession. You're gonna have guys in the building, and you want guys that are gonna be there. So hopefully they saw a guy that really loves basketball, wants to get better, and just wants to keep doing it as long as he can.
What were some of those conversations like? Like, what were some of the things that you say to really prove that you love basketball? Because it's one thing to say you love basketball, but how do you actually demonstrate that in front of a scout or an executive or a general manager, whoever it might be?
Yeah, that's a great question. Definitely you want to talk about how much you love the process of getting better. That's something I've always enjoyed as a kid, like getting in the gym, going to work out. Like I love that feeling of being here, getting better. Um, but also just emphasizing that you enjoy the competition, you like to compete. And that can be in anything. But obviously, basketball is the sport of choice for me. So demonstrating the competitive edge and that desire to get better is super important.
Something that comes up for you a lot when you talk to evaluators is your winningness, right? I've heard that you study advanced metrics, so you might know this, but you have the highest plus minus, like raw plus minus, of any player in college basketball last year. When Duke outscored opponents by the most of any player when you were on the court. What goes into making you such a winning basketball player, and how did you kind of allow that to be such a big part of your game while in Duke, even as a true freshman?
Yeah, I heard that stat and I was pretty shocked by that. That was pretty sweet. I mean, obviously we played on a really good team, so it can get inflated a little bit. But obviously over a large sample size of a season, that's pretty cool. Um, I think just my dad was always good at emphasizing that it's not always about scoring. Like that's not always the most important thing. And I think people tend to think that way growing up. Like, oh, how many points did you score? That doesn't always translate to being affecting winning the most. So just trying to focus on all the little things. Like I'm gonna make it as hard on the guy that's got the ball that I'm guarding. I'm gonna make it super hard for him. I'm gonna box out. I'm gonna rebound. I'm gonna get a loose ball. Like those things add up, and they kind of all go into um, having a good plus minus or making winning plays when you're on the court.
I think that your defense specifically might go a little bit underrated. I think you have some edge and some nastiness to your game. What's something that you think maybe people don't necessarily realize about your game when they first see you play, um, based on maybe impressions they have, something that maybe an opponent realizes after they've seen you play after the first time?
Yeah, I think it's probably defense. If I'm gonna get beat or you're gonna get beat. People are gonna make moves on you. They're gonna get around you, but I think sometimes what sets me apart is I pursue the play. So even if the guy beats me a little bit, I'm trying to get back in front. I'm trying to contest his shot. I'm trying to make the shots as hard as I possibly can for the other guy. Even if I'm not the quickest, I know how to use the angles, and I'm trying to make it the toughest shot possible for the guy I'm guarding. I think that is definitely something that hopefully I can carry over here. Something I'm still gonna keep working on.
Is there a particular part of your game that you're most confident about right now? I've heard you talk about Clay Thompson a little bit before, so maybe it's the corner three, maybe it's some of the motion shooting. Is there a part of your game where you're like, this is going to be my bread and butter right off the bat?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I probably play off my shot a lot early. Like that's something I've worked really really hard on. Um, I couldn't always shoot. I didn't get really good at shooting until high school. Um, so I think that's something I can always have in the back pocket. But I definitely I think the efficiency around the rim I want to carry that over, and then some of the bunch of the ball screen stuff I've been working on here. Hopefully I can get utilized in some of those situations depending on who I'm playing with.
You mentioned your dad earlier. I saw an interview with you where you talked about how your mom asked you to change your free throw shooting and you listened to her and you started shooting 91% from the line. What was the change? What was it that you actually implemented from her to become a, 90% free throw shooter?
It's funny. I used to shoot. I do three dribbles and I'd shoot from my hip, just like I mean most people shoot from their hip on a free throw. She would always set it up here, so she'd take her three dribbles, whatever, and set it right here and then shoot. There's just less room for air. If you come from your hip, you can bring it this way a little bit or bring it this way. If you set it here, all you do is shoot it. So you're not missing right or left. You're only going short or long, and it took my uncle to tell me to do that for me to listen. I didn't listen to my mom, and I should have just listened to her right away. But turned
As
out
long
pretty
as
good.
it, yeah, as long as you got to you eventually, you've got plenty of time to keep that implemented in your career. You obviously come from such a basketball family with your parents and your brothers. How much does that impact the actual game where there's so many different people in your ear, and even with your brothers, guys to scrimmage against around the house and that kind of stuff?
It's definitely cool. You're raised in like a competitive environment. I would say now my parents aren't really in my ear about basketball stuff as much. Like it's listen to your coaches. Obviously, it's going to be a job now, so I'm sure there will be less and less advice going forward. Um, but yeah, I mean it's pretty cool to be in that environment just as a kid and let those competitive juices flow with your parents and your brothers.
Another parent that was surprisingly involved in the process was John Shire's dad, who apparently saw you play AAU and told John that you were amazing and that John should recruit, and John wasn't sure initially. And then when he did watch your game, he was like, "Yeah, that guy belongs at Duke." Can you tell me a little bit about that story, if you remember it at all, about how Coach's dad was part of your discovery process?
I think so. I think one of my high school teammates' his grandpa is good friends or just knows Shire's dad. So I think he texted Shire's dad like this guy's good or whatever. Like he's good enough to play at Duke or whatever. And obviously, I think Shire told the rest about like sure, dad, like whatever. I'm sure he's a good player, but and then he just saw me play a couple of times, saw me at the NBA camp, um, and I don't know. I think it's what stands out more to coaches than like the skill and all that stuff is just the winning plays you make, and that's something I try to tell a bunch of players, my brothers included. Like it's not about there's a bunch of guys that can score. It's guys that make the right plays, know how to pass, know pass it on time to guys, know how to rebound and just get the ball. Sometimes that's what it comes down to. So then Shire thought was a good fit, and I'm glad he did.
I'm glad he did too. It was really fun to watch you on that team specifically last season. So many future pros. Another one of those guys who checks all of those boxes you just said was your college roommate, Cooper Flagg. What can you tell me about Cooper Flagg that people don't know about him? He's the player that everybody has heard of, but you have the most insightful opinion, I think, because you have to live with him, play with him, do the whole thing. So, what's something people maybe don't know about Cooper Flagg that you can tell us?
He doesn't turn it off. I think that's I mean that's one of the best compliments I can give. I think the guys of his caliber. I know people see it in the games like he plays every play. Guys of his caliber don't usually play every play like he does, but he does it in practice too. I remember the first time we played pickup together in the summer. Like I was on his team, and we won a bunch of games in a row. And then he switched teams with the other team. Like he switched with another guy on the team, and then they won a bunch of games. Like it's rare for guys that can do that, and so it was cool to be around. And then just off the court, he's a great guy. You wouldn't know other than him being 6'8", 6'9", whatever he is. You wouldn't know he's a good basketball player. Like he doesn't carry himself in that way. Like he's all that. He's just a humble dude who loves basketball and wants to get better.
That's some Jimmy Butler type of stuff for the scrimmages, and obviously you're a Wisconsin guy, Jimmy Butler, Marquette. I wanted to ask you about what's in the water at Wisconsin. We're seeing Halliburton, Tyler Hero, Brandon Pajemski, Kon Knueppel, all of Kon Knueppel brothers coming up soon. What's going on with Wisconsin basketball right now, where all these prospects are coming through the pipeline?
Yeah, I mean the last 8 to 10 years have been really really good. we got a couple of good classes coming up too. It's really fun to watch. We've had the NY2LA circuit here in Milwaukee has been really, really good for the area. But yeah, high school basketball is really good in Wisconsin right now. I think we're a basketball state for sure. We love our Badger football and stuff like that. But I think guys are really, really falling in love with hoops up here, and it's great to see a bunch of success. We got a bunch of guys playing D1 as well. It's awesome.